So you're all here today because you want to make your business fit for the future. The business of the future makes space for what matters, at work and at home. This is the reality of today. 12.5 million sick days in the UK due to work-related stress, depression and anxiety. And you might have seen a stat like this already today, but I think it's worth repeating. Technology should be enabling us to work less, not more, to work smarter, not harder. And yet we're walking around with work on our phones, in our pockets, on our bedside tables, always on. People are in a permanent state of information overload and stress with ridiculous expectations on them, and it's making us ill. And the neuroscience tells us that our brains need a break, downtime, a change of scene, a change of activity. When you don't give your brain a break, you actually diminish its ability to think creatively and strategically and to handle complex problems. So good luck competing with the robots. This is the road to burnout. It's a massive cost to business and the economy. It's unproductive. It's making us miserable. It's making us ill. Long hours behind a desk can actually lead to a shortened life expectancy as well. It's just not sustainable. But there is another way. And it's win-win for business and its people. More and more companies are doing things differently. They're making space for what matters at work and at home. Recruiters are saying that candidates are increasingly requesting and expecting some form of flexibility as well at work. It's actually rating higher than salary for young people. The future of work is healthier, happier, and more human. And you can step into that future right now. All you need is one key ingredient to get started: trust. So 5 years ago, I started IVF therapy treatment, and I was 39 and I'd been trying for a baby for about a year, and apparently one of my ovaries was blocked, and we had about a 30% chance of success. They say stress doesn't help your chances, so it's best to keep that under control. It turns out, at the same time, I was negotiating a promotion with this guy, Graham, the founder of Think Productive and the author of the business bestseller, How to Be a Productivity Ninja. So I'd been at Think Productive since the early days. I'd taken quite a big salary cut. I'd taken a bit of a punt because I really liked what the company stood for: challenging addiction to busyness in companies and helping their stressed out people get back in control. It's like really life-changing stuff. And you can relax now, that's the product placement done. You can enjoy the story. So there I was, negotiating with Graham, and he wanted to make me a director, managing director actually, and to give me 5% of the business. We both went away and had the same thought. Actually, 5% doesn't feel like enough. And he came back and actually he was talking about 20% of the business. You know, this was a big deal. The company was growing really well. We were already regarded in the industry as experts in our field. Our workshops were causing a buzz around like FTSE 100 companies and top universities. The company was then already global, and the book had a bit of a cult following as well. So it was a big deal, and I was really flattered, but also really stressed. Like, should I tell him that I'm going through IVF? You know, the law says I don't need to, and like, you know, for good reason. Friends in HR advised me not to tell him. And I'm definitely not comparing Graham to Michael Corleone, the Godfather. But at the end of the day, he's a businessman, and we were negotiating. And the IVF might not even work, but it didn't feel right not to tell him. We trusted each other. He was trusting me with 20% of his business baby. Sorry. And this whole thing was causing me stress, which is not good for the IVF. Before I finish the story, I'd like to stop and ask you all a question. Can you imagine a workplace where you trusted your manager enough to tell them something like this, that you were going through IVF during the middle of a negotiation? Oh, some nods, but quite a lot of silence. Okay, it's a pretty extreme example, so let's forget babies. How about if you trusted your manager enough to say that you're going to take a longer lunch break because you're feeling low or stressed that day and needed to clear your head? Or if you're a manager, would you trust yourself to champion your staff equally, your diverse staff equally, knowing that perhaps one of them had admitted to you that they suffered from anxiety or cared for an elderly relative at home and sometimes had to leave early, or one day maybe wanted to start a family, or maybe had a passion project, a side hustle, or a hobby that they had on the side that they one day maybe wanted to turn into a side business. Guess what? We're all human. We all have stuff going on in our lives, difficult stuff, exciting stuff, messy stuff. We've just gotten really good at hiding it. What would happen if we all opened up and trusted each other more? How motivated would you all be to give your best work if you're all treated like adults with real lives? Hold that thought. So, back to the story. I decided to tell Graham that I was having IVF. I said, look, it might not even work. I've been nervous about telling you, but I wanted to. And he didn't get it. He was like, that's brilliant. Okay, he's got a Brummie accent. I'm not going to do the accent. It's brilliant. That's so exciting. Take as much time as you need for appointments and stuff. And why were you nervous? I said, well, I was nervous because we were negotiating, obviously. And he was like, what? This changes nothing. And he stood by that. He made me MD and gave me 20% of the business. And I've brought my best self to work every day. And yes, as Tina revealed, I have got a 4-year-old. So it did work. The IVF worked. She started school yesterday. Yeah. So I know the decision to tell your manager something like this wouldn't work in many places. I know I'm in a privileged position working for quite an enlightened company that puts people first. So why am I telling you this humble brag of a story? Because people remember stories, as Al told us earlier. And this story is about trust. It's about trust in the workplace. And if there's one thing that I want you to remember, it's that the business of the future makes space for what matters, and trust is the key to stepping into that future. Okay, so what does that actually mean in the real world? Like, how have we built trust at Think Productive? And what does making space for what matters actually mean? So at Think Productive, this idea of making space for what matters, it drives all of our decisions and actions. It means being aware of the distractions, the pointless meetings, the noisy emails. It means challenging the constant, relentless busyness as a badge of honour. So instead, we choose not to be victims of busyness, to not be overly responsive, spending all day firefighting fires that maybe aren't fires, like this lady is doing. Like, is that really, sweeping leaves, is that really the best use of her time right there? Instead, we manage our attention. We make space in our week to take a step back and look at the bigger picture like she should have been doing. To review our priorities. We take back control. Too soon? Throughout the company, we make space for the good work that creates impact and value. The process improvements, the innovation, the strategic thinking. By the way, we have no meetings Wednesdays, so that the team know they've got protected time in the week to focus on project work if they need it. All of this is obviously good for business, but it's also good for us people too. Adding value in this way makes us feel more fulfilled and happier at work, more engaged. And it's engaged people are, of course, good for business. I've got some stats on this later. It's a virtuous circle. As well as making space for what matters in the work, we make space for ourselves, putting the humans first. Self-care, taking breaks, leaving on time, and crucially, leaving ourselves some energy for outside of work, to take care of our families, to exercise, to laze about doing nothing, like me on a Friday, to volunteer, to have hobbies, or increasingly to fuel those side hustles, those passion projects that might supplement our income or our CVs or our sense of purpose. Making space for every aspect of ourselves is not only better for our well-being, but at work, these things fuel our creativity and ideas, our energy, our skills and productivity, and they may sometimes also bring like new business streams, new partnerships, new contacts. What makes us human, our emotional competence, our creativity, our imagination, our vision. These are the skills of the future, the human skills that technology are going to struggle to match. So let's make space for these things to thrive. Making space for what matters has been good for Think Productive. We've empowered over 150,000 people globally to work smarter, not harder. Our staff turnover is ridiculously low, and our team are massively engaged, as you can see in this graph. So I'm going to share some more examples of how we make space for what matters and how trust fits into it all, so that you can walk away with some ideas of your own. Firstly, a point about building trust. This is critical. There's really no point in having flexible or agile working policies if you're not building the culture to support them. So if you're a manager or a business owner, as a lot of you are here today, you have the opportunity every single day to build the trust of your people, to build that quality trust. And that trust is built in the questions you ask or don't ask, in responding, in how you respond or react to honesty from your people, and of course, in how you role model making space for what matters too. And you'll find examples of these throughout my presentation, which isn't much longer, so don't worry, the bar's nearly ready. Here's the first one about modelling making space for what matters. So like the rest of my team, I work a 4-day week. We've got a 4-day week at Think Productive. We work slightly longer Monday to Thursday, and then 1 Friday and 4 to make up the hours. So we work the same amount of hours as someone on a 5-day week. And there's no reduction in salary or annual leave, and we get a regular 3-day weekend. It's pretty amazing. So I work a 4-day week, and that's great, but it's not going to work as the MD if on a Friday when I'm meant to be off, I'm sending emails. Because all that's doing is sending a message to the team that the 4-day week is a lovely idea, but really it's not for senior management, and we're too important and busy, and if they care about advancing their careers, they need to be probably checking their emails on a Friday as well. So it's important to reflect on what messages you're sending the team, if you've got one rule for you and another for them. And if a manager is feels that they're so indispensable that they can't take a day off, I see red flags. What they're actually saying is that they don't trust their team to get on with things when they're away. That they're actually holding back their team from stepping up to the mark, from making decisions, from making mistakes and learning, from growing in confidence, from taking the company to new heights. I didn't actually check my emails for 9 months while I was on maternity leave, and I was the MD at the time, so it's totally doable. I role model making space for what matters at home, yes, by working a 4-day week properly, but also by leaving work on time without my laptop, and I don't have emails on my phone. And this is what I get up to instead. This is Tea and Toast, my improv troupe. So for me, making space for what matters outside of work means time with my family and friends, time to potter about lazily, a very healthy obsession with improv. My husband might not agree that it's healthy, but that's another matter. And I have the energy, even with a 4-year-old, and running Think Productive, to rehearse weekly, to run regular shows. We've got one on Saturday in Brighton, if anyone's around. And we even had a sellout run at Brighton Fringe. And having that balance and interests outside of work, it's not only setting a good example for my team, it makes me happier, more productive and inspired when I'm at work, and it makes me a happier, more patient person when I'm at home, most of the time. So a bit more about our 4-day week, because people do find this interesting. We introduced it 8 years ago. It was an experiment, and then we just ran with it because we just saw the benefits straight away. And it's now part of our DNA and a key way that we make space for what matters. So at work, the 4-day week, it brings us focus. So you all know that feeling just before a holiday where, you know, that feeling that every hour counts, the realization that you can't do it all. That's what the 4-day week's like. It's like a deadline that makes you ruthless in a good way. You focus on the high impact work, on what matters. And then on a Monday, after our 3-day weekend, we come back like we've had a little holiday and we feel refreshed, energized, open to new ideas and opportunities, and making decisions from a place of perspective and clarity and calm rather than tiredness and stress and overwhelm. So the 4-day week has given us permission to think in terms of impact. My team has the confidence to ask amazing questions, like when Caitlin asks this, like, do you really need me at this meeting? Or Jess asks me to help her prioritise her projects. Encouraging this type of impact thinking or questioning is good for any business, like whether or not you've got a 4-day week. And like having the confidence and feeling safe enough to ask these questions, I think it shows that the team know that I'm going to respond supportively to that honesty, to a question like that. And I trust them enough to know that these questions, they're coming from a place of wanting to do a good job, not from wanting to slack off. So we actively encourage them. What else do we do? Well, we take breaks. Our brains need proper breaks to function optimally. And we take proper lunch breaks away from our desks. We leave the office on time. We don't send each other emails outside of office hours. You know, occasionally that's necessary, but it's really rare. And we listen to our brains and our bodies and take breaks during the day too. Like, have you ever been on Facebook or a friend's wedding website or something, and you can sense that your manager's walking behind your desk, you quickly change tabs? I've actually said to my team, I don't want you to, I'm going to do a voice. I don't want you to ever have to worry about looking over your shoulder. I trust you to get the job done. I know that we all need breaks sometimes, go on Facebook or do a bit of personal admin. I do it too. I trust you to get the job done and manage your attention. Another example, working from home. So as the manager, you've done your recruitment job well and you've employed smart, capable people. Maybe you've already got a flexible working policy and some of them can work from home sometimes. That's brilliant. But are you building a culture of trust that supports it? So, for example, it's no good saying to someone, oh, how come you didn't respond to my email straight away when I emailed you and you were working from home? Like, that's not the type of question that builds trust. So maybe they were taking a break. So what? We all know now you should be encouraging people to take breaks. There's actually evidence out there that at least 1/3 of people that work from home work longer, less productive hours and send more unnecessary emails to their managers because they feel guilty or they're worried about looking like they're slacking off. I mean, it's madness. It's unproductive and it comes from a place of not feeling trusted. So instead, why not ask them, did you get some fresh air when you worked from home yesterday? Or what time did you wrap up? I hope it wasn't too late. I know that can easily happen when you're working from home. Allowing your people to work from home, if managed well, can bring so many well-being and productivity benefits and money and travel savings and so much good stuff. Like, why jeopardize that by not trusting your people? Just trust them, let them get on with it, and support them. So what else do we do? The martini culture. This is probably not what you think. Remember the martini ads from the 80s? Anytime, any place, anywhere? Anyone? Yeah. So that's how we work. We empower our people with the freedom and responsibility to choose how, where, and when they work, within the boundaries and needs of the business and our clients and team, of course. So we trust them to take ownership of their commitments and projects and energy and attention, how they structure their day, when they go offline, where they work even. Everyone is aware of their different attention rhythms and work styles. Like some people might be larks or owls, or want to start work a bit earlier. One day they might want to focus more and lock themselves away in a meeting room or work from home, or another day they need to collaborate and come in. The key is to give people this freedom, but also the responsibility to take ownership, to be accountable, and to communicate and negotiate with their teammates with a spirit of fairness and respect and responsibility, so there's no risk of guilt or resentment. It's tricky, I know. I'm not saying that as a manager you shouldn't set boundaries or core business hours, or that you shouldn't track progress on projects. That's much easier to do now with online systems like Trello or Asana. And you should still expect people to check in with their teammates who might be impacted if they decide to go offline for a bit. There's no place for passengers on the team. With freedom and responsibility, everyone pulls their weight and is accountable. So if you're the manager, your role then becomes a lot more interesting too, because you're focusing on setting the course, on the outputs, the outcomes to aim for, rather than tracking the inputs. So what do I mean by that? So instead of tracking the visible inputs, like how many hours people spend online on their emails, which is a pretty pointless way of measuring success for most businesses, unless you're a help desk, instead set the goals. Let's track this goal. Let's revamp the website to double conversion rates. So that's what you're then tracking rather than the hours. So can you imagine working with this level of trust? If you empowered your people, or your manager empowered you to take responsibility for how you get your work done, to take breaks when your body and mind ask for them, to make your own space in an agile way for the deep focus work, for that satisfying high impact work, away from distractions and the constant firefighting. Being comfortable asking for help when you needed it. To be positively challenged to stretch and to grow. So how might these conditions, this culture of trust, being empowered to make space for the fulfilling work that creates value, how might that affect engagement? Hands up, who thinks these conditions would inspire you to bring your most motivated self to work? Yeah, look around. Of course, we all do. We all crave this fulfillment and respect in what we do. Well, here comes the reveal. With this approach, with this culture of trust and a more authentically engaged team, you're going to get a more productive, happier, strategically aligned workforce. Okay? Gallup did this massive study a couple of years ago, the 2016 Q12 meta-analysis of 1.8 million employees, okay? And this was the only large-scale study of its kind, and it showed that companies with highly engaged employees experience 10% increase in customer loyalty, a 20% increase in productivity, a 40% decrease in staff turnover, and a 21% increase in profitability. This is across all industries. This way of operating, making it human-focused and trusting each other, is win-win. It's good for business and good for its people. You don't need a load of money for beanbags or pool tables or team holidays to Ibiza, although I wouldn't say no. You just need a bit of an open mind and trust. And we're constantly learning and evolving at Think Productive. We're not perfect. Of course, we still experience stress and periods where we might need to work an extra Friday, like I did to prepare for this presentation. but it's a rare occurrence. This is where my Geordie husband, a healthy cynic, would raise his hand and say, well, okay, I'm not going to do a Geordie accent, right? Yeah, you can make it work because you've got a relatively small team. What about the really big organisations? To this, I would say, they can make it work too, because they're also made up of small teams and departments. So even if the wider culture is toxic and needs a whole load of work, or the technology is not there, or the policies aren't there, there's always something that you can do as a manager or as a colleague to make space for what matters and to build a culture of trust. So if you're a leader, don't get left behind. Start opening your mind and trusting your people. And for everyone else, start demanding a healthier, happier, more human world of work. So this stuff I'm sharing is not crazy fantasy, it's our reality, and there are tons of companies already doing it too. We've just been doing it for quite a bit longer. I've been doing it for 8 years, and I could never go back. And I would love for all of you to get a taste of this future of work. So I'd like to try something with you all now. I've got a question for you, and I'm going to give you 20 seconds to think about it, okay? What one small change within your power could you make from today to make space for what matters? It doesn't need to be as big as trialling a 4-day week. It could be eating lunch away from your desk, or leaving work on time for a week, or giving your team permission to turn off emails for an hour a day. Okay, your 20 seconds starts now. Okay, now turn to the person next to you, or if there's 3 of you, just get together and share your commitments. Okay, swap over if you haven't done so yet. Okay, thank you everyone. Back into the room. I know you're all excited. Thank you. Okay, would someone like to share their commitment? Yes. You're going to take a lunch break? Yes. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And you get a book that's going to change your life. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? We've got 2 more books. Yes, you.
Well, because I work from home and for myself, I've put focused work time and focused personal time because they really easily bleed into each other.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Okay, got a book for you. Right, I'm going to go to the back of the room now to mix it up. Yes, the lady in the black blazer.
Thank you.
We've got a very small table where we could have lunch in the kitchen area, but there's not enough space at all, so everyone ends up just sitting at their desks. So I think just trying to rearrange the furniture and getting people to say, come and join me, or,
Yeah,
encourage people to go and use that space.
brilliant. Love it.
Loads of leaflets and stuff gets dumped on it instead. So.
Yeah, clear that out. Yeah, brilliant. Well, you can come and get your book after. Thank you for sharing. Round of applause, everyone, for everyone who shared. Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited for you all, and I've been Elena Kerrigan, and I really like to know how you'll get on, so find me on LinkedIn, and remember, start trusting people.